I've invested over the years since 2009 to that. We're talking about millions of dollars into growing a business. I mean, if you build a building, for whatever, it's a coffee shop, a pizza parlor, and then someone comes in and says, by the way, we're taking back the foundation. Well, no, I paid for that. And we agreed to that. And if you change the rules, well, first off, there's some legality there. And then tell me what the new rules are. Do I need to pay for updates to the foundation? What, do you have to corner the building? They haven't given us any answers. So this is the only option available to me, not the first. I think something too is Bill's always known that I've approached this as a business owner. When people see me complain about something publicly, or we do a deplatform this campaign or something like that, that's because the fight has come to my doorstep. I want to be able to run my program and run my business. And we even said, look, if you have different rules from what we've been told, tell us what they are. Now, that's one thing that happened, at least at that time of the Vox apocalypse, where they said, okay, these videos need to be removed. You need to change your shirt in your merch store, which was different. They added guidelines. Again, sorry, because I hadn't violated any, but then I said, okay, your sandbox, your rules, understood. With Facebook, they still haven't given any. There's no answer, no reply, no reason for removing the biggest election stream that's ever taken place in an online platform. By the way, more people were watching, and I don't say this to brag. I mean, we've talked about this for a long time. A lot of people go out there and try and tout their numbers. I want the content to speak for itself. More people were watching us than Brian Williams and CNN combined. And Facebook gave no reason to this day, zero justification for it. At a certain point, you have to know what the rules are. Didn't they just, was it Friday? Now they just totally demonetized the page, which is fine. We said, what was the reason listed?
None
Whatsoever. I've invested over the years since 2009 to that. We're talking about millions of dollars into growing a business. I mean, if you build a building, for whatever, it's a coffee shop, a pizza parlor, and then someone comes in and says, by the way, we're taking back the foundation. Well, no, I paid for that. And we agreed to that. And if you change the rules, well, first off, there's some legality there. And then tell me what the new rules are. Do I need to pay for updates to the foundation? What, do you have to corner the building? They haven't given us any answers. So this is the only option available to me, not the first.
What would you guys say to all of the Media Matters people and the Vox people and the Daily Beast people who no doubt will be watching this, and they will say, but wait a minute, Crowder and your half-Asian lawyer, when we look at the top 10, drivers of traffic to Facebook pages, usually 4 out of 10 have something to do with Ben Shapiro. 3 of them are the Blaze, and then there's one lefty thing. How could that then be the censorship of conservative voices?
That's in spite of Facebook's policy. Now, we don't know because we don't have access to the information and algorithms, which are kept more secret than the Coke formula, or was it the 52 herbs and spices to the Colonel's chicken? But I will say this, people used to use this argument a lot about Michael Phelps. They would say, well, he eats 3 Big Macs every day, and he used to eat a bunch of McDonald's and this kind of stuff. And people say, so therefore that must be the diet of champions. No, he has the wingspan of an albatross and a size 19 triple wide shoe, and so he can get away with eating McDonald's and still being the best swimmer in the world because of God-given athletic capabilities. I would say, as it relates to conservative content, listen, the left has had all of main ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, really up until recently being the only one. New York Times, Washington Post, everything, right? The places you just mentioned, Daily Beast, Vox, right? And these places are all owned by multinational media conglomerates. Like we've been in tussles with Disney, NBC. Is it Disney, ABC, NBC, Universal, Turner, Viacom? All of them. Never lost any of them. And so I think that a lot of people go online for the same reason this show has been as successful as it is, for something that is an alternative point of view. Alternative to what? Everything else. And so the fact that people are craving truth and information that they cannot find anywhere on their television dial, that conservatives shouldn't be faulted for that. It's just that the left, listen, they've had every other platform, and they're not nearly as competitive here on Facebook right now. So just because they're more successful doesn't mean that that's because Facebook's favoring them.
And there's two. So to jump off of that, Dave, real quick, is really what it comes down to is that the in spite of argument is very true. It's not about how much is actually being shown. It's how much would have otherwise been shown if you had enforced your policies correctly. And if at the end, Facebook's one of their arguments, one of their defenses might be our platform sucks. People don't like it. That's why we're not getting that much views. That's why the streams aren't doing as well. Our stuff just broke down. We have no reason. Like, it's just we're actually really bad at what we do. That might be one of their defenses. So, but ultimately, it's about what should have been, not about what they're actually providing, despite the fact that there are numerous conservative platforms and voices that are getting good traction despite the policies. It's nonetheless doesn't speak to the second point, which is the individual question about certain voices. There are certain voices that have gotten more attention in a bad way from the powers that be, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. And Stephen is one of those. When you looked back at the 2016 Gizmodo article, that example there was based on only having 4 names of all the conservative voices out there at the time. You had Rush, you had Daily Wire, you had Shapiro, you had all these other names that were out there. You were out there, one of the names that was out there. Maybe not fully in the conservative sphere at that point, but when you have all those names and only a few are targeted, you have to ask the question of why. And so our lawsuit is not about saying that there's this widespread, top to bottom, every single person is there saying they hate conservatives. What it's about is saying if you can bend the rules without giving full business disclosure, if you can commit fraud that is anti-competitive, one media company complaining to another media company to shut down a third media company. If all of that is legal, then you don't have laws anymore. You don't have an equal playing field that the law guarantees. We're not saying that we want to change the rules. We're saying enforce the rules as you have stated them. And if not, be honest about what the real rules are. Tell us what you're doing. Tell us how you're enforcing it. Don't wait until it's a Senate inquiry or a Facebook whistleblower, though I will tell you, people are coming out of the woodwork to talk about what's going on, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah, Crowder, as a guy that's been doing this forever, don't you kind of admire the elegance of their evil in a certain way? Like,
oh, yeah.
I have no doubt that you see the same things that I see. Like, there are certain weeks when they let my videos be seen. Like, you're out there, we're getting the normal numbers. Or Twitter, suddenly I can get thousands of retweets on everything, and then there's suddenly a week where I'm purging followers and I get 5 retweets on something. Like, that sort of elegance by design of just keeping us all on our toes constantly so that we can't be like, oh, there's the smoking gun, because every freaking week something else happens.
Yeah, no, game has to respect game. And when you look at them, you're like, oh, okay, kind of like right now with the Merrick Garland. Like, remember me? I'm like, that's one for you, Biden. Okay, all right, fair play. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, listen, the reason that we haven't been hurt on YouTube, for example, with traffic, so this is separate from Facebook, is because we know that you can be beholden to algorithms, to search, to browse, to suggest it. And so we plug every time we do a show, look, just tune in Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern. We've set a schedule. That's not something that's really typical of online content, doing it live at a set time. A good portion of our traffic comes from people just bookmarking the page so that we aren't in Matt Drudge before he went, who Matt Drudge is today. He said, don't be beholden to these social media ghettos. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody else has had to come up with contingency plan over contingency plan for their business model, but we've always had to try and look around those corners. So the fact that we have, for example, millions of people tuning into these shows on YouTube, that's not necessarily because we're showing up in browser suggested all the time. It's because we have planned for this scenario where we are never suggested, and so we've had to act accordingly. And listen, that makes us more competitive, and I think that conservatives in general are pretty industrious. I don't know about the top 10, but I can tell you what traffic we were getting at Facebook once upon a time versus now. I can tell you how often we were trending versus now. I can only tell you about my experience, and then I'd like to compare notes with Facebook, but they don't answer at all, ever, period.
Yeah, it's like, well, Google. I mean, forget us, right? Like, forget us, the guys that do this for a living. But if the average person had a problem with their Gmail account, who are you going to call, right? Like, there's no phone number.
Yeah, I'm
there's
sure
nobody you can call.
Wojcicki will get right on that.
Yeah. She'll be all over it. Does any of this just seem like the obvious end game of where all of the kind of social justice lunacy that you and I have been screaming about for years was going to go? In other words, that these companies have chosen the social justice ideology. They've chosen the equity ideology. They've chosen to have, their board have a certain amount of trans people and gay people. And guys like you and I, we rail against this stuff. So it's like, this shouldn't surprise us, right? That they would try to go after someone like you.
No, it doesn't surprise me. I've always sort of had a target on my back. That doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is the flagrant disregard for, like Bill was laying out, just basic honest business practices. You know what I mean? If you change the rules, let us know. I don't think we violated any rules with the election stream.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about comedy instead of the nonstop yelling you get everywhere else, check out our comedy playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, check out our full episode playlist. They're both right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.